So at that point, was it 1965? You're working for Cameo Parkway, part-time engineer, 60 hours a week, which is,
Yeah.
it's a lot. And
Yeah.
so was that the studio busy back then?
Well, it wasn't open to the public. It was
Mm.
a house studio.
Oh.
And in other words, only Cameo acts were allowed in.
Oh. Hmm.
And I worked with all the Cameo artists. I think I worked with just about all of them,
Oh.
uh, except the Kinks.
And this was.
I don't know. Cameo was over by that time.
Hmm.
None of these acts were ever going to have another hit record.
Mm.
The first hit Cameo had while I was there was Little Bit of Soul.
Cameo was on Walnut Street, you said, or
No, Broad and Spruce.
oh, okay, all right.
It was the southeast corner of Broad and Spruce, 309 South Broad Street.
And you had a 4-track Scully. That was all you were recording to back then.
We had two 4-track Scullys.
But there's no syncing them together, right? You just use
No. Oh,
no
no,
none of
no.
that.
This was all analog. This was 1965.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we had a lot of Ampex decks. We had a couple of 351s. We had a few mono 300 decks. I love those decks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had a 3-track half-inch. And I kind of forget what we had, but the main machines were the multi-tracks were the two 4-track Scullys,
Scullies, yeah.
Scullys.
Okay. And then who did your mastering when you were? Did they have in-house mastering too there?
No, nothing at all like that. No, they didn't have it. As I said, they were just a house studio for their roster of acts.
So you were working there. What was Joe Tarsia there already, or he came?
No, he had been there. He had worked for Cameo before that.
Mm-hmm.
But Joel Fine was the chief engineer at that time.
Okay.
So I don't know why Joe left or what those circumstances were, but at the time he was working for Philco.
Oh, okay.
And he had a really strong technical background.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm finding that it's just getting better and better. And they had Studio A, which was the big studio, where everybody wanted to work. And then they had Studio B, which was a smaller studio. And I always felt that was a better sounding room than the big studio. But for the big acts and for large sessions, you needed Studio A anyway. And I think I was working under Joel Fine for about a year. And let's say he left.
Okay.
And it was just me. By default, was chief engineer.
So so 1966. You're the chief engineer at Cameo Parkway. That's
Yep, about that.
Yep.
And I think I was there for about a year. And I mean, I didn't know anything about running a studio. I knew how to make a recording, sort of, but I couldn't run a business. I couldn't handle it because then they started to open the studio to the public.
Oh.
Because Cameo's going downhill, and they're trying to, how are we going to make money, And so they figured, well, if they open the studio, that would be an income source. So then we were kind of open to the public, and that really needed somebody who knew what they were doing and how to run a studio and had, the technical expertise. Now, I knew tube stuff. Give me a tube schematic, and I could find my way around it, but I didn't know anything about solid-state stuff. And all the technical stuff, like the signal chain and everything. And it was pretty clear. I mean, not that anything terrible happened, but they've kind of figured out that, I didn't know the technical part. I didn't know how to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
So they were figuring, well, they had to get somebody else in, and they were thinking, well, let's get Joe Tarsia back.
Okay.
In fact, I remember Richie Rome saying, they were saying, do you think he would want to come back?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, he'd come back here in a heartbeat, or something like that, words
Wow.
to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I meet Joe Tarsia. He comes in, and he's looking around. I guess he just came in, to talk to them. And he seemed like a personable guy. And next thing I know, all I know is that they're going to hire another engineer to be on the staff.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, I got somebody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I know the language now, so somebody I can talk to who speaks the same language.
Sure.
And then Joe had plans of opening Sigma after about a year, and he's sweating over that. He put everything on the line.
Wow.
I mean, he mortgaged his house, his car, everything. I mean, everything was on the line for him.
Wow.
And I could tell he was terrified.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, how the heck can this guy miss?
Well, why did
he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Cameo is going down the tubes.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't any real viable studios in Philadelphia. He can't miss.
Yeah.
Of course, that's from outside, that's easy to see.
Sure.
But when you've got everything on the line, it doesn't look that way.
Yeah.
But anyway, obviously, it turned out to be a much
the thing I don't understand,
enormously bigger success than anybody ever dreamed.
Well, but the thing I don't understand, Cameo Parkway already had a big A room. They had a smaller B room. They had the equipment, 2 engineers. What was he going to offer through Sigma that they didn't have already? How did he think he had a better idea of managing the place, or why was he thinking about opening up another studio?
I think he probably always wanted to do that because he wasn't the kind of guy that could take orders from somebody else.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to be the boss.
All right, I got you. Okay.
And in hindsight, that was clear from the beginning.
Yeah.
He came in and he wanted to be the boss.
Okay. All right. No, I got you. Now that makes sense. Okay.
And actually, he was, but he wasn't. The final say didn't rest with him. He had to answer to people, and he didn't want to answer to anybody.
Okay. All right.
So he was a very ambitious guy, and he knew what he wanted, and he knew how to get it. And I could see that Cameo wasn't going to put any money into the studio.
Oh.
I needed stuff, and I couldn't get it. And they just weren't going to support the studio anymore. Came down to, after Joe left and opened Sigma, it was just me and Phil DiPrinzio, the guy who took over from Jay Conway, who was the controller. And it was just me in the building, and I couldn't get anything. I could hardly even get tape.
Oh, jeez. Oh.
And of course, Joe took all the customers.
Okay.
He made sure of that too. I'm just this naive guy. I didn't even care if I had a hit record. I just liked working. I just liked doing the job.